Loops are breaking the internet's brain today, and it's all because of these two guys. Peter Steinberger, the creator of OpenClaw, and Boris Cherny, the creator of Claude Code. And we're not talking about Ralph loops. That was 6 months ago. We're talking about loop engineering. So here's what happened. Pretty much at the same time, two of the most influential people in the tech AI space echo virtually the same message. First, Boris says this in an interview.
I have loops that are running. They're the ones that are prompting Claude and kind of figuring out what to do. My job is to write loops. And this is this kind of next transition that I think we're going to see in the next few months.
And then not long after, Peter posts this tweet. Here's your monthly reminder that you shouldn't be prompting coding agents anymore. You should be designing loops that prompt your agents. Now, of course, the internet did what it always does, and now everybody's talking about the fact that if you're not looping yesterday, you're going to be left behind and part of the permanent underclass. And that's why I want to make this video. I want to hopefully give you some insight, some reasonable takes on what looping is and whether you should be using it or not, and let you make the best informed decision. So let's get into it. Okay, so loop engineering. I don't think there's an official term for it yet, but hey, that's what we're gonna call it. So loop engineering is replacing yourself as the one that prompts the agent. Instead, you design a system that does that for you. And here's what I mean by this. Right now, your process probably looks something like this. You write a prompt, the agent does the work, you get the result, evaluate it, then you write your next prompt. You have a goal in mind throughout this entire process, but the agent does the work in each step and you're a part of this loop or this process. So you're just directly prompting it. Now with loops, you're building the system that finds the work that needs to be done, it evaluates it, creates a plan, triggers the agents to do work, triggers more agents to review the work done by other agents, and then documents everything that's been done, and it decides what needs to be done next. And this process continues in a loop until the job is complete. Now, the difference here is that we're still writing that initial prompt, but instead of prompting the agent and then micromanaging it, we're writing a prompt to the system that we orchestrated. So we're prompting a system and not the individual agent. Now, think of it this way. Imagine a CEO to a manager relationship. The CEO might have a project for the company, they might have a direction, but they're not going to go and tell every employee what to do, at least not at a large scale. So they're going to tell the manager, and the manager is going to go ahead and implement that. And the CEO trusts that the manager can complete it because they trust the manager themselves and they trust the process that they have set in place. Now, if something goes wrong, we're not going to try to get in there and fix it ourselves. We're going to try to fix that process, make sure we have the best manager in place. And that's kind of the idea. So we're doing this with loops, but instead of telling managers what to do, we're telling our system what to do, and that's what we're optimizing. Now, this sounds cool in theory, but as you can imagine, it can get very expensive if you do this wrong and you just let your agents run wild. And it also is quite hard to orchestrate a good system here to properly do what we need to do. So I recommend some caution here, but at this point, you're either thinking this is the dumbest thing ever, or you think this is the coolest thing ever and you want to get started right now. Before you write this off or you start doing it right away, let me show you what this can actually look like. So for starters, there is no right way to make a loop. We can make a loop as complex or as simple as we want it to be, but a loop does need two things at its core. It needs a trigger, something to initialize the loop, and this can be done manually. So in Claude Code, for example, we have the loop command. Here's where we can fire off the loop, or we can schedule some kind of cron job, or we can do this through some kind of automated trigger. So think linear ticket creation or GitHub issue creator. This can be a trigger for the loop. Now, either way, we just need something to kick off this loop. Now, the other thing is we need some kind of goal. So something that determines when the job was complete and something that determines what success looks like. So a trigger and a goal. What's inside of that loop, that part is up to you. And this is going to change depending on the loop you're creating, your project requirements, what you want that loop to do, and so on. So what I want to do here is try to construct a loop here, or at least look at the anatomy of what might actually go into it so we can get an idea. Now, of course, every loop is not going to look like this. Depending on requirements, it's going to change a lot, but let's try to break this down. So first of all, after the initial trigger, you're going to want to equip your loop with some kind of context, some skills. This is where we want the loop to know about our project. We want to give it information, tell it where everything's at, context about our project. give it rules on how to properly implement certain processes. This is like that entry point to the loop. We don't want the loop running wild. We don't want our agents doing whatever they want. And we, of course, don't want our token build to just go crazy. So if we don't properly set this up, things can go wild, and we want the results that we want to see. So this is important, of course. Now, if you're connecting to external tools like a database, think linear, whatever we have, we're going to need connectors. So MCP servers to our database, maybe to GitHub to be able to trigger some kind of pull request. If we have external tools, we're going to need some kind of connectors in this process. So we want to make sure that our agent has the proper tools and access to these tools to do what it needs to do. Now, we're also going to need sub-agents. So remember that our loops are responsible for prompting sub-agents. So we want to have an agent maybe write some tests. We want an agent to review work. And this is where we want to ensure that we're properly structuring how these agents operate and so on. Now, if we're working on local files here, we're probably going to need work trees. We want to make sure that two agents working on the same file don't have any conflicting errors. So work trees are something to definitely consider. If you're doing it locally, you're going to want to make sure to set this up and properly configure that. Now, one of the most important parts of a loop is going to be some kind of state. We need to know where our loop is at in this process and what's been done, what needs to be done next, and so on. So this can be done through linear. Maybe we have the loop just checking off tickets. This can be as simple as a markdown file that checks off boxes as it goes. Either way, you want to make sure to have some kind of memory so we always know what's going on and the loop can continue there. Now, all these components create a loop, and of course, every loop is going to require fine-tuning in order to actually make it work, and it's going to be custom to your scenario. Once you've built the loop, now you have to maintain it. In terms of responsibility, really nothing has changed. When you're prompting your agents directly, you're still responsible for looking at the code, reviewing it, making sure that it does what it should do. And with loops, we still want to watch that, but we're also constantly reviewing the system and fine-tuning it. Now, the better that system works, the more hands-off we can be, and that's really the difficult part. How do we make a system that can do what we asked it with minimal supervision? Even with the best developer in the world, if you don't give them the right context, they can spiral out of control and build a bunch of stuff that we don't actually want. So really, that's the challenge. So is this something that you should be doing? Probably not. I mean, if you're doing this because the internet told you that it's the next big thing and you're gonna be left behind, well, yeah, then don't do it. You have to remember that people like Peter and Boris, they're on the forefront of experimenting with this stuff, and they have unlimited budgets. I mean, Peter, for example, spent $1.3 million in a single month. I mean, that's wild. So unless you have that kind of budget, you should probably proceed with caution. Here's my personal take on all of this. So I see this as something that could be evolved to an extent. I naturally kind of get repulsed by the hype of it, but I see where there's value and I see where it could be extremely dangerous. And let me give an example. So prior to this, before loops became a thing, before this got popular, I've been doing this for about 7 months in certain parts of my process. And for me, it was more about constantly writing a certain prompt. And then once I realized that, hey, this agent does this very well and I can offload this task, then I naturally just started building a process around it, automated it away, and just let it do its thing. So for me, it was a natural evolution. And if you're looking to try this out, that's how I would recommend maybe testing it out. Find parts of your process that can maybe be automated away and then just kind of build on top of that. Now, I still think manually prompting is going to be good. There's parts where I really don't trust the agent, so I want to be involved, and I like to manually prompt it until the automation part just naturally flows into it. So I would say try this out, proceed with caution unless you have a Peter Steinberger sized budget. I would be careful, but definitely give it a try, see what you think about it.